Specialist with Therap Services. Thank you for joining us today. And we do have a pretty good sized group, so we're going to allow people a couple minutes to go ahead and get logged into the meeting. And just to let you know kind of what today is about, we're actually going to cover a new feature that we recently came out with that will hopefully make your actual billing process a little bit easier and a little bit more capability of having an error-free situation going on when you're doing your ISP billing. This is the ISP billing unit calculation rule webinar. Just to be clear, excuse me. And really what that indicates is we are going to show you kind of a more efficient way that we've developed in order to generate your ISP billing. This does not negate you from being able to utilize the way you've been doing your ISP billing right now. This is not something you have to change overnight. Just to let you know, this feature has been out for approximately a month now. It is actually already being utilized by providers. And we will be addressing any questions that are coming up. Please make sure to ask your questions over in the chat box over to the right, and we'll be addressing those as we go. As you know, there is not an audio for you to speak on these calls, and there is such a large group that we will not be turning that on either. So just make sure that you're asking any questions you may have. And we'll kind of do a little wrap up as well at the end of the presentation and letting you know what this feature looks like. Excuse me. And any of those, just to kind of give you a little bit of relation to what this is going to look like, any of those that have been doing the case note billing, it is a similar functionality, so some of this information will look very familiar to you, but we're going to walk you through that. And actually my co-worker, Tony Ann Laurinaitis, is going to be doing the walkthrough of this feature. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her, but please make sure that you are asking any questions that come up. If we need to review something again, please feel free to ask. That being said, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tony Ann and let her show you the new feature.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Heather, we just had one quick question. It says, how do they see if they are doing this on their phone? Is there any way that they could see this while they're on the phone?
We haven't shared any screen yet, so that's fine. You should still be able to see it just like normal. So you're going to be able to see Tony Ann's screen now. So there wasn't any kind of share screen going on at the time. Please let us know if you are having any issues seeing that information.
Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
So, and I can see your screen just fine, Tony.
Perfect. Okay. I hope everyone's doing good today. So we are going to cover that new ISP unit calculation rule that you will be using when you do your ISP billing. The first step that you would want to have is that user privilege, and that would be underneath that admin tab. So you want to find, those user privileges. So go under that user privilege manage, find your name, and then you want to have that billing admin checked off. That gives you access to that unit calculation rule that you will need to set up. And then of course, save that. And then we'll go back to the dashboard. And then down in your admin tab, under that billing, you will have that unit calculation rule, and there's the new and list. You would want to start out with doing that new option. And you can name this rule anything that you'd like. If you wanted to name it something like time services, that's what your rule name can be. It could be something like daily services if you wanted to set that up as a daily service. Then you're going to make your selections. So for your bundle rules, you would either select what you're currently using for your ISP billing. So that's what we're going to set up. So let's say that we were bundling for each day. And when you bundle for each day, that means that you're taking those units for each day, let's say the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, And then you're creating your,
Hey, Tony
each day.
Ann, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. We just had a request that if you could go just a little bit slower, that would be great.
sure. Okay. So when you bundle for each day, that means that you're taking each day and like the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and each day has its own billing data. And then you're putting each day on that claim. If you bundle for a date range, that's when you're selecting that date range for your billing data. Let's say the 1st through the 10th. So this is what you're doing with your current ISP billing, what selection you're choosing when you click those radio buttons. So for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to select each day. When you do that calculation of units, if you use that duration, time in, time out, that's taking the time in, time out that you're applying on that ISP data collection. If you do that specified unit, that's where you're specifying the amount of units in this box right here. And then using the number of days, that would be if it was like a residential service where no matter how many times staff collect documentation for the ISP, you will only have 1 day that the system will calculate. So I'm going to select that duration, time in, time out. And then here where you apply that rounding algorithm, here for the duration of each data, that is taking the morning session, rounding it, and then let's say taking the afternoon session and then rounding it. And then it will add those 2 sessions, it will add those units together for this duration of each data. For the total duration of each data, that's when it takes all the minutes for the day and then converts it to a unit. So again, when you set up this new calculation rule, this new unit calculation rule, whatever you're choosing when you're doing that ISP billing, that's the settings that you want to set up. And then you would save. So here you can see I have that daily service. I have the time service. You can have a couple of different options here for all the different ways that you use that unit calculation rule when you bill. Is there any questions, Heather?
No, not so far. You're doing great.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So the next step after you have that unit calculation rule set up, then we are going to go into your service authorization under that billing tab. And you would go to service authorization search. And what I would typically recommend is for that method of data collection, just to kind of filter out your service authorizations, I would select that ISP data. So you don't have, if you have attendance, you don't have attendance in the mix or your case notes in the mix. We really want to focus on that ISP data. So here's my 2 service authorizations. I have one for residential and one for the day program. So for this residential service authorization, everything is going to stay the same, except where the service line is. Just give it 1 minute. It's thinking. There we go. And we're going to go down where the ISP data is, and that unit calculation rule will appear here. And under this drop-down box, you'll have all those different unit calculation rules that you set up. So because this one is for that individual supports tier A, which is a residential, you would select that daily service, because I only want the system to generate that billing data for 1 time a day. And then you would just click save. And then make sure you update that service authorization, because if you just click save in here and you do not click update, then it will not save that selection that you have. And then I go back to my list and I will do the same thing for that day program. So this one has that ISP data for that method of data collection. And then again, underneath that ISP data, that unit calculation rule will appear. And then I will pick that time services for that unit calculation rule. Then I would select save, and again, update at the bottom of that service authorization. Is there any questions on that?
If you are doing the attendance method, this is not going to apply to you. Just to kind of clarify those. So I am addressing questions as we're going along, but this is pertaining if you are doing ISP billing at this time. You're generating directly from that piece of ISP data is what this is intended for. If you're doing attendance billing only, this will not apply to you. Okay, I would go ahead and move forward, and I'll address questions. Thank you.
Okay. So the next step is to use this ISP billing using that unit calculation rule. This is that billing conversion button that we are going to use once we have that unit calculation rule linked into that service authorization. You will no longer be using this ISP billing. So if you can convert over when you're renewing your service authorizations, I know some months have service authorizations that renew every 3 months. Some providers like to change that when that service authorization renews. I know some states have service authorizations that are not on the cycle and they just update maybe randomly, so they can just add that ISP billing unit calculation rule when you put in that new service authorization. Maybe you want to take one program at a time and update the unit calculations little by little. It's all at your discretion. Like Heather said, this isn't going to change overnight. You know, it's not going to disappear within a month or a day. We just want to give you the heads up and show you how to make that change in your system. So once you go into that ISP billing using that unit calculation rule, again, you would select your dates of the month. So let's say November 1st until the 12th. And then you would select that service description code and then search. And here you can see that those radio buttons that you're used to at the bottom of the screen are no longer there, because we saved those settings in that unit calculation rule and they're saved in the service authorization, but you still have that view detail to see those different days for the ISP data collection. And it shows all the same information here. And you would just select that residential one and generate billing data. And the same thing, and we could go back to that list and go back again. If we want to change this one to that time services option, same thing again, those radio buttons are not there. They're saved from that unit calculation rule that we set up, and they're saved under that supportive employment. We can choose to view those details again. We have some ISP data in there from 1 to 2 and 8 to 10. Shows us that it's billable and how long that the duration in minutes are. And then you can select to generate that billing data. Is there any questions?
Keep going. I'll address the questions and I'll tag you if we need to. I just go ahead and generate a claim as well.
Okay. So the same process would happen after you would generate that billing data. You would go and generate a professional claim, or create a new claim. And you can do that if you have that new option and you wanted to create a new claim. You can select your payer here, and then you would select your place of service here, and then select your dates that you would want to create your claim for. And because we said that this was a home for our place of service, we'd want to do this for our group home. Select next, and then here our individual is. So it'd be that same process. Nothing changes here on your professional claim generating process. It's the same, even though we just have that unit calculation rule in the service authorization. This is all the same if you have that, if you create your claims in this way, and you would just generate your claim. And it says that the following claims have been successfully generated. If any agencies are using that new using template, then obviously you would need to create a claim template, which I do not have, but I will create one real fast. So you would select your individual's name, and I forgot my individual's name that I was working, Elizabeth Carter. And then select that billing provider. And this is again setting up that claim template to bill with. And then let's say that this would be for the day program. So we would select that place of service 99. So now she has a professional claim. And then we would go, instead of going to that new tab, we would go to professional claim, new using template. So here again, nothing changes with that ISP billing. It's still, if you're using that claim template, it's still that same process. And then you would do that from the 1st until today, let's say. And you would select that person's name and generate claims. And there was no claims to generate because I think I did that the other way. Oh. Heather, I think I'm stuck right here. I don't know why there was no claims to generate. I might have done it with the, I think I did it with the other one. They were together. So that's why that one did.
It's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's the same. Your claim process doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still going to generate the claim doing the new using template or doing the professional claim and new. So that is not going to change for you. So, Stephanie, you generate claims by service code and service date. So not by funding source or altogether, because we're applying that information you generated from your billing data onto a specific claim for a specific service date. Okay. Yeah, so we want to make sure that you understand the functionality of this new method. And hey, Tony Ann, would you mind just kind of running through, doing a quick little overview again? Just do the high points there. That would be great.
Of the unit calculation rule?
Yes, please.
Sure. So again, we would start in our admin tab. You want to make sure that you have those user privileges. So under that user privilege, you would go to manage, find the staff's name that you want. So maybe you want 1 or 2 staff to help put these unit calculation rules in. And then make sure that they have that billing admin selected under the administrative roles. That's your first step. Your next step is to go to billing under your admin tab and then find that unit calculation rule. And if you wanted to see if there are any unit calculation rules, say if there's a team, 2 or 3 staff members working on this, you can see that list. And you can also create new if you display the list. So if you wanted to create a new one, maybe we wanted to do a date range grouping, and we wanted to do that bundle for the date range. That would again take the dates from, let's say, November 1st to November 30th and total all those units and put it on one billing data form and one line on your claim. The bundling for each day would take each day and create its own billing data on and in the claim. Again, that duration from the time in, time out would take that time in, time out. The specified unit would specify how many units you want when using that unit calculation rule. So if you only wanted 5 units or 1 unit to be billed, you can save that to whatever your customized rate is or unit is. And then if you wanted to use the number of days, if you have, let's say, 3 ISP collections for November 12th, and you chose use number of days, it will only generate 1 piece of billing data for that 1 day. And then for that date range grouping, if you want to do that total duration of each day, that would take each session, round it by itself to get a unit, and then the units will add together to get an entire day, an entire day unit total. If you chose the total duration for all data, all sessions of the minutes will add together first, then apply the rounding to get the total units for the data range. And then this option, the total duration for each data per day, the session minutes will add together first for each day, then apply the rounding to convert to a unit, the units per the day, and then the units will add together for the date range. So for this one, we'll click that duration of all data and save. And then you have these different selections that you can pick in that service authorization. That drop down will then have 3 options. So we'll show you that in the service authorization. We go to that billing tab, that would be your next step, and go to your service authorization search. You can type in the individual's name, you can type in your program that you wanted to search these service authorizations for. You can type in that service authorization begin date or the service authorization begin end date. You can also do that service code. So if you wanted to tackle this project, you know, of converting them over by service code or by program or by by the service code or by program, or by selecting that ISP data as your method of data collection. It's your discretion. And then again, you would go into the individual service authorization and you would go into that service section and click update. And then you would scroll down by where it has the data collection information. And then after your ISP data, that unit calculation rule, you'll have those different selections of what you want to apply to that unit calculation rule and apply to that service authorization. So because this one is for residential, we will have that daily service, so you get that 1 unit per day. And then you would have to have obviously your ISP program linked as well. After you select that unit calculation rule, then you'll want to save. And then go down to the service authorization again and click update. And then you would go back to your list, go into the next service authorization, go down to that service area, go into that. If you have a couple of different services on your service authorization, you'll want to update each and every one of them. This one doesn't have a ISP program, that's why it says billing data input, but you'll want to go into that data collection information, method of data collection ISP, that unit calculation rule, you'll select that again, and then you'll go all the way down and click save. And then at the bottom of the service authorization, you'll click update. And if you're in the process of doing it by program or doing it by service codes, you can still use this ISP billing for the ones that do not have that unit calculation rule, and the ones that actually have that unit calculation rule attached on their service authorization will no longer be on this ISP billing. Is there any other questions, Heather? I guess you're answering them as it comes along.
That's how I roll. Yeah, actually, can you show the setup with the date range? Just the difference of what it would look like in the different options. That would be great.
The setup, what do you mean?
Like what unit calculation rule? Yeah.
So here it says bundle for each date range, and then the unit source says use the duration of time from in and out, and then the rounding preference, it says for the total duration of all data. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, and what that will do is that's going to create one service line, is what that does for that time frame. So same if you were to select it now on your, these are the same exact settings as what you utilize now with your ISP billing. Okay, the same exact ones. If it's specific services you have questions about, please reach out. We have, you know, everybody from all across the country that provides several different services. So if you need further clarification on what you're going to utilize for your service for your state, just go ahead and reach out to your billing specialist. If you're unsure of that, please feel free to reach out to Tony Ann or myself, and we'll either address your question or we'll get you the answer that you need, or get you the contact that you need. Because this, again, this is something that is applied across the country, just to let you know. So, and each state has their own idiosyncrasies with how things are calculated and how different funding sources want those things calculated. For those specifics, please reach out to your actual billing specialist that you are in communication with Therap for your state, and they'll be more than happy to address those questions. Really, today is about kind of showing you that functionality on how that works, what that looks like, what that will look like in your system. Now, saying that as well is that this method is what is going to take over for the other. Okay, the method that you used previously, can you go to your other screen where you see the ISP billing, please, Tony Ann?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. So right there where you see ISP billing, that method will go away eventually, probably within the next year. Okay, this is not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next month. So what I would recommend is putting a plan in place in order to make that transition. We will give you plenty of notice when this occurs. We are actually adding that specific field where you see unit calculation rule onto your service authorization report, so you can ensure that you have them all transitioned over. But again, we're going to give you plenty of notice on this change, and we're going to help you through this transition because we know it is a change for everyone because we've been doing the ISP billing the same way for 10+ years. So this is a change, but that's what we're here for as well. And what I'm going to do as well is in the chat box over here, I am going to go ahead and put the link for the guide for this method. And it is all laid out of what Tony Ann went over. And if you need to know more of your state specifics, that's when you want to go ahead and reach out to us. There's a question of an example when you would use date range. It's if right now, if your state only allows you to submit one service line per claim for that entire time frame, is an example of when you would use the date range. So for example, in Iowa with IME, with the state funded, you can only submit the one service line for the majority of any services you're submitting for the month. So that would be an example of when you would use the date range. So you only want that 1st through the 31st on that claim for one service line. All right. Mary asked, once the ISP billing goes away, will that make that field on the service authorization required? Mary, we'll have to let you know on that, just for the simple fact that this is still so new, and we are leaving the other piece on there for quite a time. That we have, I would imagine once we do make that decision that we will make that unit calculation field required when you do that ISP billing calculation, or that ISP billing on the service authorization. So I do see that being moved as a required field when that change is put into effect.
And if not, Heather, that's a great suggestion as well, I think, right?
It sure is.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, that's all right. So we have, yes, this webinar is being recorded. Everything that Tony Ann went through is going to be on that webinar. Everything that you've seen here, everything that we've discussed will be recorded and will be posted to the site, so you will have a reference. Again, that guide to this actual ISP conversion in your system is in the chat box over in your GoToMeeting space. Amy asked, will this make it challenging when auditing to see if staff have missed any reporting for individuals by the day? No, this will not change any of that process. And Amy, you're really not using it for your stuff right now anyhow, so this really will not have that much of an impact on you and your services. So, Bethany asked, do we go back and update all authorizations now or just update them as we go? I would update them as you go. So I would say if you have varying, varying ISP plan start dates, off dates, yeah, that's, I would do them as you go, or pick a service or a program or a house and set that up that you're going to do that for that next month. And that's going to be the effective date when you want to do that, because as you're doing the transition and getting them over to the new ISP conversion, you're going to have to know what's under the ISP billing and what's under the ISP billing unit calculation rule. Okay, so you can make one fell swoop and say you're going to change them all over now, or you can kind of take them in chunks by service or by program or by house. It's completely up to you.
Cindy asked if the ISP is going away in the future. Is ISP billing using the unit calculation rule in use now? Yes, you can use that now. So if you converted that over and added those unit calculation rules in the service authorization, you can start using that that ISP billing using that unit calculation rule today. And Kelly asked,
so this is an effect,
Oh, go ahead, Heather.
Go ahead. It's all right. So, so this is, it's all right, everyone. So this is one thing it's already in respect. So, it is not going to be, the field is not going to be changed for anybody in New York, by the way, because you have a lot of changes going on there now. So the eventuality of you never ever using ISP billing is not a foreign thought. So we will not be taking that off of that page for your method of data collection, just to let you know, so you'll still see it there. But anyhow, let's kind of just make sure that we're addressing everybody. So, yes.
Kelly.
Yes. Again,
Kelly asked,
this is. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
This is not going to be something that's going to be applied on the service description, because then you would have to apply it to every single service description. This is because one unit rule is going to be applied across the board. Okay, so you're going to go apply that. It's individualized on the service authorization, because one person, you may want to change that unit calculation for this person for a specific payer. Kind of the example I give, like with IME, where you have to have a gate range, so you can actually specify it for that individual for that gate range on the authorization, as opposed to have it just specifically set up for that service code. So no, we have it on the service authorization field, so it can be more individualized per service. It will apply the same way if you're doing a rate change. Nothing changes in that respect. Marsha, I don't know how to answer that. Marsha asked, asking, will ISP become the only billing system that will be utilized? We're trying. We're doing our best to slowly take over the country. It's just slow rolling. Marsha, I honestly don't know how to answer that for you there. Sorry. I think we got just about any other questions answered. And if we didn't, please let us know. I believe our contact information is all over the information site. So you are more than welcome to reach out to us. You're more than welcome to reach out to your billing specialist that you already speak to. Again, this is just to help that efficiency. For those that have been doing daily billing or daily unit billing and ISP billing, and we have you put in that restricted one unit on your service authorization, this takes care of all of that. This takes care of you from having to put restricted one unit. This is going to address that specifically. So you're not having to put in a rule in place so the system doesn't accidentally calculate it from time and time out because you forgot to switch the unit calculation. So this is really a method to help reduce those type of errors and having to do corrections, so forth and so on. So, and any state-specific contracts, we don't know when this is going to roll out for your state. We do not know how your state has decided to push this out. So I would contact your state representative. If you are from that specific state office, I would contact your Therap state person to ask specifically when that would be rolled out and how that will apply in your specific state. All right. All right. We're going to give people just another couple of minutes to ask any questions, any further questions. Again, this is going to be recorded and posted to the state, to the Therap site. So you will be able to go back and reference. The actual ISP billing conversion guide is already on the site as well. Again, it is linked over in your chat box if you want to see further information on that and screenshots and walk through that process. And additionally, please make sure to reach out to your Therap billing specialist if you do have any state-specific questions on how that should be set up for a specific service for your state. If you're unaware of who your Therap billing specialist is, you're more than welcome to reach out to Tony Ann or myself, and we will either direct you to that applicable person or we'll be able to address your questions. All right, I think that will do it. Again, please reach out to us if you do have any questions. And Tony Ann, if you don't mind, just as a quick reference, go ahead and typing in your email contact information in the chat box. That way Sure. Everybody has that if they need that.
I think I have to send up. Right, there we go.
There we go. All right. Again, thank you everybody for your time today. Hope this is beneficial. We really want to put this in place to help reduce some of those errors that are caused by having to configure that unit calculation rule in the ISP billing as it stands now. So again, thank you for your time. And again, please let us know if you need anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.